New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello, it's me, Bonnie. Yes, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. Good afternoon. Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, whatever time you're tuning in to this program. Just wishing you well. And to let you know, I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a licensed soul collage facilitator, all rolled into one. So let's just move forward with our topic of grief. And that's what I do. That's what I talk about. That's what I share. That's what I like you to, I invite you to join in the conversation today by just dropping a comment in the comment box. Okay, make this a part of your day. Make this your hour to explore grief, to journey through grief during this time. And just knowing that grief is caused by loss. And loss is any expected or unexpected occurrence where you can't go back to the way things were before. You know, death, divorce, a diagnosis. Oh my goodness, a whole lifestyle change being uprooted and transplanted to other areas, other cities, other countries. Oh, even natural disasters. Also, the birth of a child, puberty, aging, which we're going to do a program on the grief around to aging, and knowing that that's what leads us to grief. And then grief is just that normal collection of emotions that's so natural that occur from these losses. And it could include so many ranges of emotion: sadness, anger, numbness, confusion, anxiety, maybe even a sense of relief or joy. So anything that you experience from these losses is grief, and it's all normal. We all grieve in our own unique way. I love that expression that every snowflake is different. You know, and you look out and you see a blanket of snow, and it's almost unimaginable to my mind that each one of those little flakes that compile this big snowstorm could be different. So realizing that, knowing that we all grieve differently. And just joining the show today, I just want to assure you that you've come to the right place today to start that journey of befriending grief. And knowing that as you befriend grief, then you can listen to others. And then they in turn can start to help others. It's like the domino effect, one by one by one. Or the lights coming on in a building at night, one by one by one, until the total building is illuminated with light. And that's my desire for us with our discussion around grief. Bringing it out of that dark shadow and right smack into the middle and front of our lives. Grief has a super healing power, or the superpower of grief is healing. So I just want to say I so appreciate your joining us today. And I just want to read a little bit before we launch into our topic today, which is grieving caused by suicide. So moving through grief caused by suicide is what we'll talk about today. And before we bring out our special guests, let me just read you this around grief, which I always find to be so thought-provoking and enlightening. And it says, grief may be the greatest healing experience of a lifetime. It's certainly one of the hottest fires we will encounter. It penetrates the hard layers of our self-protection, plunges us into the sadness, fear, and despair we have tried so hard to avoid. Grief is unpredictable, uncontrollable. There are no shortcuts around grief. The only way is right through the middle. Some say time heals all wounds, that time heals grief, but that's a half-truth. Time alone doesn't heal grief. Time and attention heals. In grief, we access parts of ourselves that were somehow unavailable to us in the past. With awareness, the journey through grief becomes a path to wholeness. Grief can lead us to a profound understanding that reaches beyond our individual loss. It opens us up to the most essential truth of our lives, the truth of impermanence, the causes of suffering, and the illusion of separateness. When we meet these experiences with mercy and awareness, we begin to appreciate that we are more than grief. We are what grief is moving through. In the end, we may still fear death, but we don't fear living nearly as much. In surrendering to our grief, we have learned to give ourselves more fully to life. So just embrace that for a minute. Just embrace that. In surrendering to our grief, we have learned to give ourselves more fully to life. And that's by Mark Matusalem. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Just be with that. Just be with that. Just taking a breath now. We're going to shift gears to our theme that Joe had put up earlier, moving through grief caused by suicide. And this is a really, tender, delicate topic. And I want to honor and respect any of those people that their grief is caused by suicide. Knowing that is a special or even more challenging situation to go through. And I just want to give you a number, and I don't want to get into statistics because that's just numbers. I want to get into the emotions and our humanism around this. But suicide is the 12th leading cause of death. Over 45,000 people in the US last year took their lives. And over 1 million suicide attempts last year. And suicide is the major contributor to premature death in the United States. So those are enough on the statistics, but if you can imagine 45,000 people taking their lives last year, how many survivors, how many family members, how many friends, how many cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters are grieving that loss. That's a lot of people. And that's why I would like to have some dialogue around grief caused by suicide. And at this point, I'd want to welcome my wonderful, beautiful guest, Judy White, whose son died by suicide. and she's here to share her story with us. And Judy, we're so honored to have you today, and just peace and blessings to you, and just honoring your willingness to come on to share your story with us.
Thank you, Bonnie. I truly, truly appreciate the opportunity to be here and to tell my story and to tell my son's story and to hopefully be encouraging to other folks who may be going through something similar. I don't wish it on anybody.
Wow, you're truly noble, and it's appreciated. So, I was just going to ask, and your son's name is Jared?
Jared.
Correct?
My son's name is Jared. Mm-hmm.
We welcome Jared and Judy here today.
That's right. I'm sure
Jared.
he's sitting right here.
I can feel that. So if you just want to share any parts of your story, Judy, please, we'd be honored to hear it.
Oh gosh, where to start? I guess with the phone call, that you never ever want to get.
Yes.
But it comes out of the blue. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to me. My ex-husband called me from another state, okay, and told me that Jared was hurt really badly. I don't think he told me right off the bat why, but anyway, he said he was hurt badly and they were flying him over to Montana. Wow. And he didn't know if he was going to make it or not. So the place, fortunately, that they were flying my son to is the city that I lived in.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And good. Yes, and so I just, as you do, you just make a mad dash to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that phone call, I guess, is a huge one. For someone else, it might be a policeman showing up at your door, or a neighbor running to your house, or whatever. Mm-hmm. that is crystallized in my mind. I will never forget that.
Yes. Did someone accompany you? Did you even have the whereabouts to get someone to go with you?
Yes. I had a housemate, a very good friend, and so she went with me.
Right. Mm-hmm. So there was. I know that we talked a little bit before the show, and was really talking about the support that you received to help you move through the grief of losing Jared.
Right. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your support system my idea, Judy, is to encourage other people for support, mm-hmm, to reach out for support. So that's maybe you could share that part of why it's so important.
Oh, absolutely. Boy, there's two sides to that tale. On one hand, I had left a faith community a couple years prior to this, and it's a shunning community. So everyone that I had known and been close to for 30 years were gone. But fortunately, when I moved to Montana to get a fresh start, and I went to the University of Montana in Missoula, and I was majoring in social work. So thank God for that support, because the whole social work department was there for me. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. And fortunately for me, I was taking some courses on loss and grief.
Yeah. Wow. What we always use that word coincidences, and someone has told me there are no such thing as coincidences.
Yeah. And I totally believe that.
What's your feeling? What was your feeling around? Wow.
I was in the right place at the right time for that kind of an event to occur. It was totally unexpected. So it was a very difficult time, and it's something that I will say part of the blessing in that is I've gone through something that the hardest thing I've ever gone through. So whatever I'm hit with now is probably a drop in the bucket compared to that loss. So yeah.
Yes, definitely hear that. There's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt that even talks about that if you can move through that kind of a loss, you feel prepared to move through anything else that comes forward. You know, that sense of resilience. You know, that's one of the things of successfully moving through that kind of grief, that depth of loss, is that's resilience.
Yeah, and you mentioned the support earlier, and I think that was a huge thing for me. The chairman of the social work department was also my guidance counselor. And so I went to him because we had just started a new semester in school. I was in my 50s when I went back to school to get my social work degree, so that was challenged enough. But anyway, I went to Dr. Scores, and explained what had occurred, and he said, take all the time you need. But I knew I couldn't take too much time because it's so easy to get behind when you're going to the university. And I was taking a full load. I had 16 credit hours.
Wow.
Oh, so
that could be a double-edged sword. You know, a double-edged sword that we feel like somebody live for, or to not live for, but to move you forward. But still,
that is exactly. Thank God for it, because that's what happened. I can't say that I got a whole lot out of that semester. I was so numb for months that I just was going through the motions. I was taking my classes and I was doing well. I was getting A's, but I didn't remember any of it. You know, so actually the following semester I took a couple of courses over again, because even though I got good grades, I think I even got A's, but my memory was so shallow that
no retention.
Yeah. But I was so numb during that period of time that probably was part of a lifesaver. I think that was part of what helped me be as resilient through this all. Because otherwise, I think I was in that place where so many people find themselves. It's either sink or swim. You've got two choices. And I could have easily sunk. I felt myself sinking. But I thought, what would Jared want truly, all honesty? And I knew he'd want me to swim for all I was worth. And that's what I decided to do. I decided instead of sinking, I was going to swim. I'd swim for both of us.
Oh, and can you speak a little bit to when you say sinking? What emotional? What feeling? What could you just describe that a little bit for the sinking?
You just are so completely overwhelmed with it all. You just want to crawl in a hole and just cover yourself. You just want peace. You just want peace. You just want peace.
Yes.
Yeah. So I could feel myself falling into that hole deeper. And I knew that I had already made a pretty large commitment going back to school.
Right, right.
And I knew in that commitment that I wanted to do social work to help support people.
Yes.
And John told me, my guidance counselor, he said, just do this. He said, just put one foot in front of the other if you can possibly do it. Hang in there until my son died the end of January. And he said, hang in here with us until the end of March.
Okay. Just a baby step.
Just baby step. Just hang in with us till the end of March. Do the best you can. We'll work with you. We'll support you any way we can. And they did. And so I did. I just put one foot in front of the forward, even though I was numb, even though I didn't really retain a whole lot during that time. I think that's what got me through it.
Yeah. It sounds like John was what you call a lifeline.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. He and some of the other professors at the university, that was huge for me. That was huge. And I'm actually still in contact with a couple of those professors.
Oh, those are lifelong.
So I want to, if they ever stumble across this, I want to say thank you so much. I so appreciate what you did during that time. I don't think you have any idea of the impact.
Whoa. Oh, I'm sure that is well received right now. Right now. I did want to ask you, was there any shame in telling your friends when you would say that Jared died? Was there any shame? How did you handle that part of it? With suicide, there's so much shame and such a stigma attached.
Yeah, there is.
Prevents people from being honest. So just want you to speak to that part of it, sharing this with you.
I have to honestly say, I didn't feel I didn't feel shame around that. And I was very open and honest with the people around me, with my professors, with the fellow students, who were mostly young people, by the way. I was probably 20, 30 years older than most of my peers.
Right.
Going to school. And we would often get into being in social work type classes. We would get into discussions about grief and loss and suicide and that. And so my case is probably a little different than many people in the fact that at that time, I was taking courses that were dealing with things like this. And so that just reinforced my beliefs, that I honored around death and suicide. And I just don't think a loving God, whoever that is for whoever, but in this case, my loving God, wouldn't hold someone who is in so much pain that they would take their own life, would hold that against them. And therefore, I really didn't have a lot of shame around that. I was pretty open about it. And I think being open to talking about it was helpful.
How about with family? It sounds like you're okay with telling the people in that professional world that may have more insight, more depth, and social workers to say more training around handling people's emotions and handling incidences that come up. But how did friends respond?
Friends were awesome. The new friends that I had made, because like I said earlier, I had left a faith community, and my family are still a part of that faith community, and I'm not. And so that's something that we have to talk about superficially, because we have different belief systems around death and afterlife and all of that. So family-wise, I have to be kind of careful about what I talk about with them.
Sounds like you.
But I still, even though I have no contact with the congregations in that faith, I still do have contact with my, minimum contact with my daughter. And that is a godsend for me.
And your daughter?
My daughter and my granddaughter and my son-in-law. So that's important to me.
And were you able to really have open-hearted and honest dialogue with your daughter?
No, I can't say that we have been able to do that because it would bring up dogma issues.
I see.
Yeah, and so I have to be really careful about that.
Yeah.
I brought my daughter up to believe the things she believes, and then I left, so in the beginning, that left a very confused and very angry young woman, and rightly so. I totally get where she was coming from, but over the years, I've honored her way of believing, and I don't try to infringe on that in any way. And she in turn honors where I'm at. And so there's certain things that we can't talk about, but lots and lots of mother and daughter things we can talk about. Yes. And so those things, yeah.
Well, it's really, and that's beautifully said, the way you're able to maintain a relationship with your daughter without allowing the dogma and religious differences to really pull you apart. And so it sounds as if you've worked hard to maintain that relationship.
Yeah, I think it's just the religious dogma that builds a wall, but the love that we have for each other as mother and daughter, that changes.
Right. And I was going to add to that, Judy, it sounds like there was a double loss, when we talk about cumulative grief or cumulative grief in this instance. You lost your faith religion, and along with that, you lost family, a sense of family and friends, a support system that was there. So it was a double loss, and then losing Jared.
It was.
So
I can't deny that. Walking away from my faith community was not an easy thing. I didn't do it lightly. I cried and cried for months before I left. That's when I made that decision. But I no longer fit in that box, and I had to honor who I am. And those were the reasons I left. But then between that time and the time that my son suicided, I also lost my dad and my brother on the same day.
Wow. Your brother and your dad on the same day?
Yeah, I lost both of them 16 hours apart, and that was 2 years prior to Jared's death. So between losing my faith community, my dad, my brother, and my son, that was a very traumatic time for me. So thank God that I was taking classes on grief and loss and being surrounded by professional people that were able to help me navigate that time.
Wow. And that's a lot. I'm just breathing that. That is tremendous. That is what is.
I think that's what they call compounded grief in the profession.
Compounded grief, or my term that I use is accumulative grief, one on top of the other on top of the other. It's like, one punch and then another punch. So, wow. Yeah. When you look at that, Judy, is there any, I'm not looking to find like the magic cure, but for you, is there one thing that you can see that really was your salvation, your guiding light, your North Star?
I think so. I went into the, I majored in social work because I really, truly did want to find a way to help other people. And I had been through counseling. I had been in counseling for quite a while. And that was extremely helpful for me. And I thought if I could get if I could learn some of those tools to help other people, that would just be awesome. So upon graduation, well, actually before graduation, I was a hospice volunteer.
Oh, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, I was hospice. I was a hospice volunteer for a couple of years. And then when I graduated, the person who was my hospice volunteer coordinator said that she was leaving her position and wanted me to apply for it. She said, you'd be perfect for it. And I hadn't considered that, but I thought, well, wow, that would be an awesome thing to do. And so I did. I applied for the position of hospice volunteer coordinator, and I got the job. So I worked in hospice. Training volunteers to work with clients that were dying. And I think that too was a wonderful part of my grief journey, because what that taught me, you know, that the people that are dying can teach us so much about living.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. Yes, you are so right. It's, I always say I learn the most from that. I have learned most about life from dying patients.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that I take away from that, and I'll just put this here, it's don't put off anything. If you want to do something, do it. That was that has been my biggest takeaway from working.
I think mine too.
Oh.
I think mine too, Bonnie. And so on that note, I think that's one of my volunteers was a retired professor from the university, and she was almost 80 years old. She had previously been a Peace Corps volunteer. And when I was thinking about retiring, she said, Judy, something you should consider is Peace Corps.
Wow.
And it was such a great idea, because when I was young, when I was a teenager, Peace Corps was just being, just getting started. It just created the Peace Corps. And I had thought about joining then, but then life gets in the way, and I got married, had kids, had my family, and so that wasn't a thing anymore. But upon retirement, I think there was a little ember down in there still burning, because I started checking it out. And when I retired, I applied for Peace Corps, and I was accepted. That was another huge piece of my healing. Wow. Because I ended up going to Guyana, South America. I worked in a home for abused and neglected girls. And
a true humanitarian.
I was the grandma of the home.
Wow.
I was literally the grandma of the home. I just loved those girls, and they loved me back. And I'm still in contact with many of those children. They're not children anymore. I left the Peace Corps, finished my service in 2018. But I'm still in contact with many of those girls and a lot of the staff from the home.
Wow. Judy, my mind is just whirling and twirling here. I'm just thinking about you're having just, oh my gosh, the worst disaster, the worst nightmare that anyone can imagine, to have that happen in your life. And then you building on that because of Jared, you were able to finish your studies because of so many of this circumstance. Or am I incorrect in saying that? I'll let you speak to that. How you see that. how you see your
No,
life?
I would say that was a huge piece of it. I decided to live my life, um, I guess, in service to others, and that's not, that sounds very humanitarian, but in all honesty, it's self-serving as well. Because
Okay.
when you give, you receive, and I feel like I have received so many times over what I gave.
Mm.
I almost feel selfish about it at times.
Yes. Well, I think, I have a beautiful friend, Margot Tabin. She's a psychotherapist, and she always says, oh, not selfish, but full of self. So loving yourself. I just think that is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Judy, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to just touch a little bit on your sharing with others that may be going through this very same thing, sharing with someone to help someone through this, and also suicide prevention. I would be remiss or irresponsible to not bring that piece in. So we'll take a short break, and then we'll come back with suicide prevention and Judy's, what she knows for sure around, not necessarily for sure. Judy will give her share on moving through grief from suicide. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why? Welcome back. And I'm still Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief, with my beautiful guest, Judy White, who is here sharing her story of moving through grief caused by suicide after losing her beautiful son, Jared. And yeah, Judy. So as I said, after break, I wanted to talk about, suicide prevention and any words of wisdom, any words of advice that you could give someone that may be experiencing the very same nightmare that you went through and survived today to share with us.
Oh gosh, Bonnie, I really honestly wish I had some big words of wisdom. But I think everyone's experience is just so different. Personal to them, so different. I feel like I probably had more support than a lot of people that go through a suicide. But I think what I would say is be gentle with yourself. Be gentle. It's not, you don't go through grief. You honestly don't. It's always there. It's always right here. It's, if I dwell on it any length of time, I tear up in a heartbeat. And it's been 17 years. And my son was a grown adult. He was 27 years old when he decided to take his life.
Yes.
I guess what I would say is just be gentle with yourself. Give yourself time. And people that have never been through a suicide, have never lost someone in that way, they don't understand. I'll guarantee you. They don't get it. And in 6 or 8 months, they're going to kind of expect you to start snapping out of it.
Whatever that means, whatever that looks like, right?
Yes. Yeah, whatever that looks like. And my thing was, I just had to be gentle with myself and gentle with other people, because they don't get it. And by golly, you don't want them to ever have to get it.
Right.
I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy.
Right. I wanted to just ask you, there were just 2 other points around that. Things that you should not say, or things that were said to you. That did you have those experiences of, I wish someone had said X, Y, and Z, or I was shocked when someone said X, Y, and Z, so that we don't make that mistake when confronted with someone who is who's experiencing a death from suicide. Because we're here to learn. So many times we're like, oh, that person said this, that person said that. It's like, what do you wish they had said? Let's start teaching people what to say.
I think one of the main things that you have to steer clear from, because we all have different belief systems, and we don't always know what another person believes. And another person may not believe the same thing that we do. So what's comforting for you may not necessarily be comforting for them. And I've heard it said over and over, well, he's in a better place, or God took another flower for his garden.
I haven't heard. Oh my
goodness. Just a lot of things similar to that. And I can't say that for a grieving parent that's really helpful, because at the moment you're angry. There might be some anger around that, and to think that God would take someone that you love so much, so dearly, that's just like another stab in the heart for some people. Now, it may be very comforting for many.
I haven't met anybody that has said that brought them comfort. So we can put that down as the number one thing not to say. that we know for sure from that. Yes.
I think people, Bonnie, I think people, once you lose someone, because as a society of people in the Western world, we're so uncomfortable with death.
Exactly.
Really, we're very uncomfortable with death. And so we avoid it like the plague, talking about it. And that's probably the one thing I miss the most, is that people kind of avoid talking about my son. And it feels like he never existed. And I would so much rather have conversations around Jared. Remember the funny things he did. Oh my God, because he was a funny kid. He was a funny kid.
We'll end the show with your telling us Jared's your funniest story around Jared. But before we do that, we have Megan, my dear friend Megan there, who asked a question, Judy. She wanted to know, did you need anger? Yes, Judy, did you need anger management after your son's death? And that's a big, yes, I'd have to question. Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. I know Megan.
Oh, you know Megan.
I know Megan. Yeah. Because I was going to school in the social work department, and I had already had a couple of years of counseling because of other situations, not my son, but leaving my faith and divorcing my husband. Those were big things. And so I had a lot of anger management. One of the anger management tools that I used myself and that I tell others, it sounds ridiculous, but it really does feel good and cathartic, is one time I took, I don't know, must have been 5 or 6 dozen eggs.
Oh,
and I took them out to a countryside, and I found a big tree stump, and I threw those eggs for all I was worth. I threw them so hard and so fast.
Oh, fast
and
too.
I was purposely trying to let go of some anger in that way.
Wow.
But I'm not an angry person by nature, and so it didn't take a whole lot for me. I didn't have a ton of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton, but I did use a couple of anger management tools, and that was my favorite one because I can laugh about that one. I can see myself now in my mind's eye, and I just laugh.
Yeah, but it's cathartic, as you said. It's moving it through because, you know, we have a physical body. It's just not along for the ride. It's not just along for the ride. It is feeling, it is holding it. There's energy in the body. And so many times with all the suppression that we do, it gets stuck and it stays there. So knowing, like throwing the eggs out, another person I had was breaking plates. You know, going to the thrift store, buying bags of old plates and finding a place, you know, safely break them, just punching bags, that whole thing, screaming, getting in your car and just scream to the top of your lungs if you need to. So knowing that the body, there's a beautiful book on trauma, and it's about the body keeps the score. So realizing we have a body, and so wonderful to hear that you included your body in moving through this, throwing of the eggs. So I'm sure that's good for those eggs out there. Means a lot of.
I hope so.
For all my, you know, eco-friendly people.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, one thing I wanted before we get too much further, I wanted to mention that has been really healing for me as well, is my son Jared, when he was in 3rd grade, wrote this little book, and it was the sweetest little book. He named it The Magic Snowflake. And his teacher took all of his classmates' stories, and she made little books out of them. Oh, I wish I had thought I would share it with you. I've got it. I still got it. But anyway, it's just the cutest story. And I took a creative writing class after Jared died, and I took his story and I rewrote it and made it our story.
Yeah.
And I've actually written a children's book that came from his original story. And it's about grief and how children can navigate grief and loss, how they can navigate loss. And so I'm that project has been near and dear to my heart. And so that's one of the things I'm working on right now. I just had it professionally edited, and I haven't decided. I think I'm going to self-publish because I'm not sure I'm going to live long enough to get it traditionally published.
We never know. Hey, Jared is a miracle worker. Jared, how should we navigate this?
Yeah.
How beautiful
so
that is.
I look forward to getting his story out into the world and helping young children navigate loss.
His life has touched the
world. And he was the inspiration.
Yes, if not for Jared. Well, that is just beautiful. I was asking you to share a story, but that's beautiful. Before I forget, could you show us your ring and explain your ring?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I don't know if you can, let me see if I can get it.
Yeah.
Trying to.
Right there. Stop. Don't move. Yes.
There. Okay. Oops. Okay. So this was for me part of my grief journey. Some of my son Jared's ashes are in this ring. So I had this ring specially made, and I just cherish it. His favorite color was purple. My favorite color is purple. So I had his ashes made into this ring.
Beautiful. Oh, what they can do with the ashes now, but I'd not seen the ring. I think he's always wrapped around you. Always.
Yeah, wrapped around my little finger.
You've got Jared around your finger. Oh, Judy, I'm so glad that we can have this time to talk and even to laugh. That knowing that we're still honoring Jared. That it doesn't have to just be tearful or gloomy. It can be light. It can be both. It can be both at any times. Honoring what comes up. If it's sadness, if it's tears, given to the tears. If it's laughter, given to the laughter. You know, we are such resilient human beings that we can truly hold both. We can hold that deep, deep sorrow, and we can hold joy. So knowing that we don't have to avoid one to have the other. And
that's good. Yeah.
So I wanted you to
a lot.
Just wanted you to share your favorite Jared story with us. We're getting to at time, so sharing your favorite Jared.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I guess one of them, and I can't even remember what it was about, but we always encouraged our children to, as they were growing up, and as I mentioned, I was in a particular religion at the time for many years. We always encouraged our children to participate in meetings. And so Jared, we'd kind of help our kids understand what we were going to talk about at the meeting. And then Jared would be, he'd have his hand up there. He'd be one of the first ones, and I'm going, oh my God, I never knew what he was going to say. I never knew what. And he had our congregation in stitches so many times, and I'm sure my face was probably as red as this.
Oh my goodness! Oh,
he was a character.
Beautiful. He still brings that smile to your face and that and joy to your heart. Joy to your heart. Just because someone is no longer with us physically, they still live on. Our relationship of emotional and spiritual still lives on. It's Absolutely. Just that's not here right now. But that relationship never dies. A person dies, but the relationship does not. And just want to say that this show has been to honor Jared White. Is that Jared's last name?
Thank you so much.
Jared White, and I'm just so honored, Judy, that you could come and share your story. Who knows how many will be so in tune to hearing what you have to say.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the honor of being here.
Thank you. And I did just want to talk a little bit about suicide prevention, since it is so prevalent in our culture, that reaching out to our loved ones or friends, or just knowing if someone is depressed to the point, or knowing that someone is suicidal, making a call, at 5150, getting treatment. So many times people that are suicidal they don't have the energy. The energy is not there to get help. So doing that, do that. And also we have some numbers, Joe, if you could put it up. You can text 741-741. And those are trained counselors on the other end of that text that will respond. Or you can call 273-TALK. Or, and this one I wasn't aware of, 988, like a 911, but 988 as a suicide prevention. So knowing that, help is out there. Help is out there. And, with COVID, left so many people's support system. So many people's support system was shattered after or during COVID. So we still have a lot of people out there that have not been able to reconnect to their support system. I had one client that at one point, we'll just say that they were suicidal, but felt that it was from alcohol that caused her to be that way. And then she was a beautiful AA program, not AA, yeah, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was her salvation. That was her lifesaver. She said suddenly they weren't coming together because of COVID. So just being aware of each other. I think that's the biggest thing, being aware of what your friends, your neighbor, your family members may be going through. Let's just reach out.
Yeah, I have a story about that. Do we have time?
Yeah,
we have minutes.
Oh, we have time. Yeah, we have time. Yes.
Okay, I had when I was in Guyana as a Peace Corps volunteer. I was in the home, and when I got to work that day, I noticed one of the girls looked really withdrawn and really upset. And so a little bit later, when I got settled in, I went back and spoke with her. And we had a heart-to-heart talk. I just let her pour her little self out, whatever she needed to talk about. And that was that. But about a year, and this young girl had a tremendously hard road to hoe because she had she was only 16 at the time herself, but she had a developmentally delayed infant. And it was really rough for him. And it was hard on her. And anyway, go forward a year and a half approximately. She came up to me one day. She was still in the home, and I was still working there. I was there for about 3.5 years. And she said, Miss Judy, she said, do you remember that day that you saw me looking down and we had that talk? And I said, yeah, I remember. And she says, I just want to, and she just hugged me. And she said, I just want to thank you with all my heart, because that night I was planning on killing myself and my son. So we just don't know. We just don't know what our words can do to help another person. So if you see someone that it looks like they're hurting, reach out, give them a hug, whatever you can give.
Oh, Judy, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful and so touching. I think we underestimate the power of our presence with someone. We underestimate how just our presence alone can be a healer for someone that's really hurting. So I thank you. That is the best. Hey, that is the best. That is what I know for sure, that our presence can be healing, our presence alone. And we don't have to be, trained professional therapists or any of those things. We're already trained. We're human. We're trained humans.
Yeah, right here. Right here.
Getting that heart connection is what heals. So, oh, Judy, thank you so very much for being here today. And Joe, if you put that suicide prevention up again, I'd like to leave that up as we exit out. So thank you so much to all that have watched and all of you that will watch, and knowing that this show can bring value to your healing from grief journey. So thank you so much, Bonnie Gonzalez again, and Judy White. And I am a grief consultant, so please reach out if you find that you're in need of help. Thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, Judy. Thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Continue. All righty.
Okay.
Bye now. Thank you.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.